Scott Broetzmann is CEO and co-founder of CCMC, and you're really lucky if you attend our mini boot camp on September 30th, because he's going to be telling you how to help design effective and strategic customer surveys. Scott, thanks so much for talking to us. What will people learn if they attend your mini boot camp on September 30th?
I think there's three takeaways that we hope people will get by spending the 3 hours with us. The first is a strategic framework for survey design, one that repositions surveys with an objective of creating business cases around the customer experience. All too often today, many of the surveys that are fielded have nothing to do with creating better customer experiences and everything to do with hitting a particular score that senior leadership has imposed upon the organization. One objective of our time together is to provide those attending with the resources and tools strategically, if you will, to do battle with the C-suite in terms of opening their eyes about what's at risk from bad customer experiences and what's to be gained from better customer experience. The second thing is we want to bring people a set of tactical tools for designing surveys according to best practices. You think of things like how to word questions, how to use the right scales, what is the order to put things in on a questionnaire. And then the third thing we want is give people some guidance on how to collaborate within the organization to common objectives when it comes to fielding these customer experience surveys. Whenever you bring people into the equation, things get inordinately complex, but it's such an important part of effective surveys because surveys are only as good as the action you take.
I'm sure you occasionally run into members of the C-suite that maybe authorize these surveys and then they don't do anything with it. But do you run into that every now and then where there's just people that go, okay, that's good to know, but we're not changing?
We do. It's more common than not to have the leadership react in one of several ways. They either get afraid because they see numbers that they fear. They might react with confusion. There's a particular measure, John, called Net Promoter Score, NPS. Certainly all the people attending the mini boot camp will be very familiar with NPS. It gives you a score, but it doesn't tell you how to improve the customer experience. The key to inspiring action and compelling transformation of the customer experience is knowing what to fix, knowing what matters most to customers. That all starts, of course, not at the end, but at the beginning. You have to design a survey and a questionnaire that are purposeful and allow you to build those business cases that create that linkage between here are the things that are important, here are the areas we can improve, and let's take action on those.
And how do you get through to the customer with these surveys when they're bombarded? It's getting tougher to cut through all the other surveys out there.
Surveys today are really challenging to get consumers to engage in because first of all, they're like mushrooms. They grow in the dark. Every time you turn around, as you've said, there is a new survey in your inbox. You have people begging for scores. And so a lot of the integrity of the feedback process has been watered down by some of these unorthodox and poor practices. We did another national survey many years ago, and it looked at the 80 plus customer care practices that companies engage in by phone and the 60 plus that they engage in by email. And one of the items in each of those lists was the company doesn't respond to you after you tell them you're unhappy on a survey. And that was one of the biggest dissatisfiers, both for people that had either questions that they wanted to reach out to a company by phone or by email. So you're absolutely right that a failure to act with integrity and treat these surveys as a communication device between you and your customers can really create some significant problems, not only in terms of the negative feedback you might get, but also the damage it can cause when you don't take action on those surveys.
Over the course of your career, how have you seen the process change of customer surveys?
There have been a couple of notable changes, and I'll use a point of comparison. The year was probably something like 1994. We did a large survey for a very well-known multinational auto manufacturer. The response rate to those surveys was somewhere between 25 and 30%, depending upon the division or the brand that we were talking about. Today, it's not uncommon to have response rates that are somewhere between 1 and 10%. So the tolerance in the marketplace for poorly constructed surveys has gone down considerably. And I think that is a primary reason why response rates have decreased, because people feel that they're wasting their time providing feedback that falls on deaf ears. So it's really important to make sure that survey adheres to better practices, that you've done your work internally with the C-suite and with others in the organization to align on why you're doing the survey and how you're doing the survey. Those kinds of simple activities have a significant positive impact on response rates and on your ability to demonstrate the improvement that you're able to get through chasing those insights.
Yeah, companies really need to be reactive, not only what they learn from your surveys, but also somebody can really do damage or unintentionally have a wonderful effect with a review.
We do a study every 2 or 3 years called the National Customer Rage Survey. And that survey is tapping into how unhappy people are today with the way in which companies handle their problems and their complaints. And some of the questions include their social media venting of their complaints and problems. And we know from the 2023 National Customer Rage Study that the incidence of people posting and reading social media problems that people are expressing has more than doubled in both cases, both the expression and the consumption. And I would say that surveys are a complementary tool alongside social media for gaining a holistic insight into what the customer experience is. Your objective as a customer experience professional, the people that will be joining our mini boot camp, is to be an advocate for improving the customer experience, to be an internal consultant. And the way that you do that is by telling a cohesive, simple, unified story about the types of opportunities for improving and what the financial impact is, what the bottom line impact of would be for improvement. And the survey gives you the analytics in order to make that business case.
Scott, you're a UW grad, a couple of degrees, and you have obviously gone on to be very successful in this line of work. What do you enjoy about what you do on a daily basis with that Badger background and that UW degree?
There's not a day that passes in my work where I don't use some of the things I learned in the classroom at UW. And that ranges anywhere from the proper design of a social scientific survey, which is what these are, to I taught small group dynamics at UW when I was a graduate student. In that class, we learned how to manage a small group through conflict, something that is very important to me on a daily basis now. Learned lots of good things at UW, took lots of important lessons with me that make a difference in the day-to-day work that I do, that's for sure.
All of you out there can learn from Scott at our mini boot camp. Go to the UWEBC website to learn more. It's on September 30th, Designing Effective and Strategic Customer Surveys. Scott Broetzmann, thank you so much. It's a pleasure. I'm sure you're going to be excited to get back to good old Madison, and we'll be excited to welcome you there on September 30th. Thanks so much for your time today.
See you then. My pleasure. Thank you.